All right, hello again. So in this video, we're gonna go over a lot of stuff. Maybe a lot. Yeah, feel free to take a break in the middle. Nobody said you had to do these all at one time, right? Maybe I should have made this into a couple of different videos, mini series on Netflix. Probably would have made more money that way. I don't know. But we're gonna go over lists. We're gonna go over embedded styles. We're gonna go over intro to colors, how to specify color. We kind of did that a little bit, but comments in HTML and CSS, special characters, intro to links, how to do your taxes, metaphysical theory. No, yeah, that's plenty. We're gonna do that stuff, I think. So let me get rid of this. So we've got our VS Code. I'm giving you guys, I think, a folder. You do need some images for this one. So there's a folder here. You should have, if it opens, there it goes. It has a couple of images in it. It has a bullet3.png and asset1.svg. Those are two different types of images, but we're going to use those as bullets for our lists. So you do need this folder with those files in it or they won't show up. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So I'm going to drag that into here. And there we go. So we don't have a web page yet. We just have our assets, our two images there, asset 1 and bullet 3. Those are what we're going to use. Okay, so we're going to do a new file. Remember, you can just do that, and then you can select a language. There might be a faster way to do this, but I'm going to select an HTML language. And then remember this trick, you're going to do exclamation mark and hit return, and you get a basic page, right? So we're going to call this page, or an empty page, basically. I'm going to call it lists and internal. It's too cold in here. I can't type. I can't type anyway, but lists and internal styles. You guys are actually lucky. I can't type very fast, so you can keep up. So lists and internal styles, let's open that in our preview browser again. So remember, you can click on, you have to install the live server extension and click on go live. This might change by the time you see this. It's always changing, it seems like. But yeah, I'm not sure why we're seeing those images, but we'll see what we'll see in a minute here. Oh, because I haven't saved my page yet. I'm going to save my page. I'll save it as, let's call it lists, because I have no imagination, right? I'm going to save that as lists. And then now I might have to preview that again. I just clicked on the down here on the preview button again, and I think now we're good. So it should say your title up here, right? Your title is in your tab bar or in the window, top of the window. That's why titles are good, because they show up in bookmarks and they also show up in the search engine searches, stuff like that. Okay, so that is probably good. So let's go ahead and go down to inside the body, and let's make a heading level 1. And inside of that, we're going to say types of lists. And remember that heading level 1, sometimes you'll see one of those on a page, sometimes you'll see more than one. I think the W3C says you should have one. Google says you can have more than one, whatever you want to do. But that's kind of the main topic for the page. And then we'll put an H2 below that. Let me make this a little bigger in case, no, that's probably big enough, right? Hopefully that's big enough. I'm going to do H2, and we're going to say this is an unordered list of movies. Did I spell something wrong? No, that looks right. So we're doing an unordered list of movies. So then we're going to go down below that, and we're going to make our first list. We're going to add some styles here in a minute after we get a little more content on this page. So the first type of list we're going to do is called an unordered list, which is UL. UL for unordered list. And then I'm going to put in a line break, because in between the UL, we're going to put list items. So that is LI. So I'm going to do LI for list item. And then let's see, the first list item is going to be Star Wars. And you guys can put whatever movie you want, but I'm going to put Star Wars for a good movie, right? And then there's a little trick you can do to copy lines. So in VS Code, this is a VS Code thing, and it hopefully works when you try this. But all you have to do is hold Shift and Option or Shift and Alt and hit the down arrow, right? So that's actually, let's leave, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. So I'm going to click on, hold down Shift and Option or Shift and Alt on a PC and hit the down arrow, and it copies the line. So it's a quick way to kind of copy things down. You could also go up too, but I went down, right? So my second movie is going to be, in my case, it's going to be Jaws, but you can put whatever you want, I guess. And then we're going to start adding a few styles. So I'm going to go inside of where it says Jaws, and I'm going to say style equals. Remember, that's how you start to use some CSS styles inside of a tag. We're going to actually do what are called embedded or internal styles on this video as well, but for right now, this is an internal style, just so you can see it work a little bit better. So I'm going to say list style image, list style image, and then I'm going to put a type URL, and then in quotes or in parentheses, I'm going to put a single quote or an asterisk if you want, not an asterisk, but an accent, right? And then I'm going to say bullet 3. I know this is a little bit long. .png. I think that was the name of our file. Oh yeah, there it is. It's already working. Yeah, that's right. So it's working. So we've got, I don't know if you guys saw this, but if you have that image, it should say Jaws there, and it's got a little splashy kind of bullety thing. So this is showing you that you can use images in your lists. And I should back up a little bit and say what a list is, right? A list is a list, obviously, but it's a bulleted list. So an UL is how you make a bulleted list. And bulleted lists are used all the time, right? Bullet lists, right? They're also used for other things like links and things, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Let me hide the sidebar so we have a little more space and it's a little easier to read. Maybe I'll make this a little longer. Try to get more on screen here for you guys of the code. All right, so we've got our opening. Let's see if we get that a little longer. There we go. We've got our first list, or our first two items there. One has a disk, right, and or a little dot. If you want to call it, it's called a disk, but and then one has that splatter thingy. I'm going to go back up to the UL and add another style. I'm going to say inside the UL, I'm going to add style, list, style type, and I'm going to say circle. So I changed that from a disk to a circle, list style type. So that is the property for a list. What kind of bullet do you want, basically? So I said style equals, that means it's CSS, right? And it says list style type colon circle, and then a semicolon. Remember, the semicolon is there. VS Code is putting that in. I don't think I typed that, right? VS Code is putting that in, and that's how you separate your CSS declarations, they're called. And we'll look at that in a second as well. Yeah, so there's three options you could put for this kind of list. You could put circle, you could put disk, which is the default, if I could spell it right. And there's a disk, right? So you can see it's kind of changing a little bit. There's the disk. We did circle a second ago. You can also do square. Now it's a square. And that's it. Those are the basic ones. There are lots of different ones that we'll see. We'll kind of go over a few of these. I'm going to go back to disk. And you can see that the Star Wars now has a disk, right? But this one doesn't, because we said list style image, and then we said URL, that's the location of the image. And then it says bullet3.png, that's the name of our image. So we're basically saying we want to use an image for our bullet, and then that is the image file. Remember, that file is inside of our folder right there. If that file was not in there, that wouldn't work. So that's why you need that folder with that file in there. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click inside of that line and do my Shift Option or Shift Alt trick and copy that whole line, because we're gonna do something similar on the next one, except this time instead of list style image, we're going to do list style. So this one is a shorthand. So CSS has some shorthand properties. This is called a property, right? So usually, well, actually all the time, these declarations, these CSS declarations are made of a property like list style image and a value like URL, right? So that's kind of how it works. Or this is the property here, list style type. List style is a little shorter. This is called a shortcut. And it is a, it's so you can specify multiple things at once. So I'm gonna say list style, and then I'm gonna say disk space outside space, and then I'm gonna use the same URL. So I'm just gonna copy that because it's got too much punctuation in it for my taste. And that is it. So let's change this to inside here, because it looks the same, right? So I'm changing this to list style disk, inside, and URL. So what does this mean? This is actually three different properties. This is the list style type. This is the list style image. This one is actually list style position. So that's a third property that we didn't, you could list it separately. You could do this as 3 lines. You could say list style type disk. You could say list style position inside. You could say list style image URL, but this is the advantage of shorthand, right? I said shortcut, but it's shorthand. So that is using, basically doing 3 different properties at once. So what happened to up here to, what does it look like? That's the kind of the important part, right? So you can have your bullet, here's the list. The list is actually in there. Let me see if I can show you this if I inspect it. So I open my inspector. Let me get this out of the way a little bit so we can see. I don't know if I can get all this in here. There we go. So let's go. Here's the list. So now if I highlight the list by inspecting it, and I click on list down here in the inspector right there, now it kind of highlights it. I got to leave my cursor there. If you guys look up here while I roll over there, you can see how the bullet now for Jaws, I lifted Jaws. Let's change it so you can tell that we have a different movie. How about It? Terrible movie, too scary. It makes me not be able to sleep. So now it says It, right? So now the bullet for It is inside of that blue area. That's where the actual list is. So on the other ones, it kind of hangs out in kind of the padding or the margin area. So that is list style position. That's what that does. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Okay. Let's do this one more time. Let's just copy this line. Remember, you can select inside of it or just click inside of it, Option, Shift, or Alt on a PC. And I'm just going to change the image here to the other image we have, which is Asset 1. And this time I got a prompt, which I didn't know why I got it last time. Didn't get it last time. I got a prompt. So VS Code knows that that image is in there, and I started typing the name. So I'm just going to click on it to finish it. And then it changes to a different bullet, right? So what is that little thing? That is called an SVG file, and I'll back up just a little bit. A PNG is basically a type of file, image file. You see them all the time on the web. It's a regular old bitmapped image. We're gonna get much deeper into images later, but for now, it's just a regular pixel-based image. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. There's some interesting trivia, right? What a scalable vector graphic is basically like a little, it's like an icon, or text is made of vectors as well. Vectors are resolution independent, which means you can scale them as big as you want and they always look good. These little guys, PNGs, if you scale them up, they'll look kind of fuzzy and blurry. I know that's not telling you a whole lot, but this is a type of file that's pretty popular nowadays for little icons and things like that. So I just used it as a bullet there. So you can use different types of image files as bullets is the point. You can use a PNG, you can use an SVG. Like I said, there's many more lectures and stuff on images that you'll get to later and how to make these and stuff like that. So nothing to worry about there. Okay, so I think that is, let's just do this line one more time. I'm gonna click here, option down arrow. I'm gonna change this back to outside so you can see what happens. There we go. So you can go back and forth on that as far as where inside and outside. I also wanted to show you, let's add one more movie. I know, but it's a lot of movies, huh? Oh, I gotta change this one. Can't have the same movie twice. Let's do Dune. There's many versions of that movie, but let's do one more. I'm gonna click Option, Shift, or Alt down one more time. This time, I'm going to take the styles off. No styles. There we go. And I gotta change the movie. What's another movie? Let's say Titanic, which was at one point the highest grossing movie. Did I spell that wrong? Titanic. Yeah, there we go. So there's Titanic. What happened to the bullet? I wanted you guys to see this. So we said at the beginning, we said list style type of disk, right? So that sets the default for the whole, actually that's actually the default anyway. If we wouldn't have said disk, it would have been disk anyway. Let's change it to circle. So we can see what we're actually changing something instead of just doing the default. So now I've changed the list to list style type circle. But then some of these are not circles, right? We said we wanted to use an image here and an image here and an image here and an image there. But then here we didn't say anything again. So what did it do? I went back to circle. So this is an example of inheritance, which is an important CSS it's not a property, attribute of CSS, right? So if I put a style on the list, that style is inherited by the descendants or whatever's inside the list, which is all these list items. So if I don't say anything different, Titanic and Star Wars, I didn't say change to something else, right? So they are circles. Both of those are circles, right? So it goes back to the default. If I change it by changing something inside, I override this style. So that's an important sort of thing to see, is that if you put a style on a parent element or an ancestor, it will be inherited. Not everything is inherited, but a lot is inherited. For instance, this style of this disk or the style of this these list items is inherited. So that's why these two have circles and these don't, because we overrode them. Overrode. Yeah, you got what I'm saying, right? Yeah, so that is that. Let's put a little note in here. So I wanted to show you another thing is, let's just go below our list. And I'm gonna put in a comment. So, and I'll do it manually the first time. I'm gonna put bracket, exclamation mark, dash, dash. This is a great list. And it turns green, at least it does in my version of VS Code, and that depends on your theme and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, that's called a comment. Where does that text show up on the page? It does not. The trick question. So if I take that comment, though, those characters off of there and just say this is a great list, then it does show up, right? There it is right there. You can see it, right? And I'm doing a shortcut that is in VS Code. It's Command or Control /, and that will turn on and off comments. So this is a comment right here. When you say bracket, exclamation, dash, dash, and then you put some text or whatever you want in there, and then you put dash, dash, bracket again. That is called a comment tag. So you can, people say comment things out, meaning you kind of hide them from the browser. So this is a way you can turn things off, actually. So if I could go like this. I could select this whole list, and I could do Command / in VS Code anyway, which is the same as typing bracket, exclamation, dash, dash, and then the dash, dash bracket on the other end. And it turns green like this one did. And what happened on the page? It's gone. Oh no, I lost all my work. You didn't. You just commented out. So that's called commenting out. So that's one thing you can do with comments. And I just did Command / again to undo the comment, and now it's back again. Reappears. It's like magic. So you can use that to comment things out, hide things, turn things off. If you want to see what happens, like you just want to hide something for some reason. You can also use it to leave yourself notes, like this is a great list, or this is section 1, or whatever you want. You can put whatever you want inside your code, and if you put it inside this comment tag, it will not show up. So it's a really useful thing to do. You can use it for your own notes and things if you want. It does make the file a tiny bit bigger, I guess, but yeah, feel free to do that. And there's a different way to do it in CSS when we start doing embedded CSS in about 32 seconds, which I'll show you as well. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's go back up to the top. Now that we've got some, excuse me, some stuff in there to put some styles on, I'm going to do some what are called internal or embedded styles. So let me show you, this is from your book actually. So we've been doing up till now, I think, all local styles. They're called local or inline styles. There's 2 other places you can put styles. This is from chapter 11, I think, of your book. You can do what are called embedded styles. Some people call them internal styles. You could see both. These kinds of styles go in the head of the document, which I'll show. We're going to do that in a second. The third place you can put styles is called an external style sheet. Or linked. You can link them. You can import them. You can do imported too. Very similar, not identical, but similar. That is a completely separate CSS style. So so now we got 3 places we can put styles. We can put them inside of an actual tag, like we're doing here, or we could put them in the head. Those are called embedded or internal style sheets, or we can put them in a completely separate file called external or imported or linked. Those are all kind of similar. Not exactly the same, but similar. If I look at Mission College, and I think I showed you guys this before, but just to make sure, I'm going to go to Mission College website and I'll view the source. And you can see there are a bunch of linked style sheets. Those are external style sheets right there. There's one right there. So that is a very common way to do it, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. We're not going to do that one right this second. We're going to do internal. But you'll see the benefit of doing internal versus what we've been doing in a second. So let's go up here to the after the title, and I'm going to add the style tag. So I say style, and then it's going to close that for me. So inside the style tag, you're telling the browser up here in the styles, you're telling the browser, hey, this is not HTML anymore, this is CSS. And it looks very similar to this, although it is slightly different because you have to say like what you're trying to apply it to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put body and then curly braces, or just braces actually. So those are next to the P on your keyboard, the letter P on your keyboard. So body, curly brace, and then I put in a line break, and then I can start typing inside of there. So this is new for us, I believe, but maybe you've seen it in another video, but just to go back, make sure everybody's on the same page here. So this is from your book as well. This is chapter 11 as well, I think. So this is what CSS looks like when you do it either as an internal style sheet, embedded style sheet, or external. Looks the same. And it looks a little different than what we've been doing with the style equals thing, which is internal. So these are the parts of a CSS rule. At the front of it, you've got what's called the selector. See, we put body here, right? The selector is what you're trying to modify. What are you trying to modify? I'm trying to modify the body. Remember, CSS modifies HTML, right? Or how it looks usually. Also behaves. And then you've got these curly braces. We got our curly braces there. We don't have anything in them yet. But then you have what's called the declaration, which I think I mentioned down here. And the declaration is made up of a property and a value. So far, we've already done some of that. List style type is a property. The value is circle. So that's separated by a colon, right? And then at the end, you put a semicolon. This one actually is technically optional, but Generally, you want one at the end because if you want to add more declarations, it's called the declaration block, and then those are separated by semicolons. So you can have your selector, your curly brace, or brace. Then you can put as many properties as you want to change as you want, which we're going to do in a second. And then you put a semicolon at the end of each one, and then you finish it up with the other curly brace. So that is the general format of a CSS rule. Usually it looks like this. Sometimes you only have one, but usually you're going to have more than one. And then you could type them all in one line if you wanted to, but most people type them like this on separate lines, so it's easy to read like what you're changing on that, for that selector. So going back to here, what's my selector? My selector is body. Cool, right? All right, so now I want to, I'm not sure why my page is blank here. Did I change files? Let's go. There it is. I don't know why that went blank. Okay, so I'm going to go into the body here, and I'm going to do font family, which I don't think we've done yet either. I'm going to say font-family, and then you're going to get a big list of, these are called font stacks from VS Code. These are these are just something that VS Code gives you. You don't have to use these font stacks, but they're kind of common. So I'm going to pick for this second one, Franklin Gothic, because it's a good example for you. And you can see all the fonts changed. What? We haven't done that, I don't think. Cool. So font family kind of says, you kind of figured that out, right? It changes your font family, right? Your font, what text you're using, what kind of font you're using. So what is a font stack? Why is there a bunch of stuff in here? So what a font stack is a list of fonts that you want the browser to use in order. Why is there more than one? Because what font you use depends on what font is on the user's computer, not yours. And that's something you have to remember, right? So you could have 10,000 fonts on your computer, and you could put the name of the font here, and it'll show up. And then you put that website on an actual web server and somebody goes to it and they don't have that font, they're not going to see it. They're going to see some default font. So the idea behind a font stack is you put your fonts in order that you want the user to see. So in this case, I want to use Franklin Gothic Medium. And if they don't have that, I want the user to see Arial Narrow. If they don't have that, I want them just to see regular old Arial. And if they don't have that, I want them to see a basic sans serif font. And they're separated by commas. The other thing to notice about this is anytime you have a name of a font that has more than one word in it, it's supposed to have a single quote around it, or accent, right? So that one has more than one word, so it's got that around it. That one has more than one word, so it has these guys around it. These don't, so they don't have to. That is to tell the browser, like, this is one name, this is a second name, etc. Now we will get to, wanted to tell you, we will get to how to use web fonts later down the line in the class. That involves letting users download a font that they can use that they don't have, which is a little bit newer process, but it gets a little bit more, there's more to it. This is just doing it the old-fashioned way, I guess. But this is fine. I wanted to show you too, if I go font family again, this will illustrate two things. I'm gonna change to Georgia. All right, so the fonts changed. Why did they change? So two things are going on here. One, if I have two rules that like this that follow each other, part of the CSS rules are the last rule wins. It kind of sounds like Lord of the Rings or something, right? So this one says font family and it says Franklin Gothic, etc. This one says font family and it says Georgia Times New Roman, etc. Since this one, everything else being even, since this one comes last, it overrides that one. That's part of the CSS cascade rules, which we'll look at later. But that's why it changed. What I really wanted to show you is the difference between serif and sans serif fonts as a general sort of font style. So sans serif we had before. Let me undo. Okay, so now we're sans serif. Sans means without. I think it's French. And then it doesn't have these little extra strokes and things at the ends of the letters. If I go back to font family, Georgia, where did it go? Georgia. Now it's Georgia. This is a serif font. You see how this ends with serif? This one ends with sans serif, and actually Georgia is a serif font, and these are sans serif. So usually in the font stack, you want to end with a generic sort of font style, and sans serif and serif are generic font styles. If I look at the text here real close, you see these extra little strokes at the ends of the letters? Those are called serifs. And that is a generic sort of thing. There's thousands, I guess. Yeah, thousands of serif fonts, and there's thousands of sans serif fonts. This one is now a serif font. So I wanted you to see that. And we'll talk more about that stuff later, as like we said. Okay, so that is, what else are we gonna put? Oh, we're gonna change the color of the text too. Let's put color, and in that, instead of doing just a generic font color or a color like we did before, we're gonna actually put in real color codes. So I put in RGB, and then it says red, green, and blue, right? So this is telling me, and this is VS Code doing this. RGB means red, green, and blue. Red, green, and blue are the three colors that make up the colors on your screen. We've switched topics here. I don't know if you noticed to color. I'm gonna put in 77 and 77 and 77. I'm just typing 77 in there. VS Code is adding this. This is not part of, a regular text file. It's just showing me the color. So now this is showing me the color. If I roll over that color swatch, if I can get it to work, there we go. It shows me a color swatch, and what color that is. It's a light gray. I'm sorry, dark gray, almost black. I could click over here if I want, and you can see on top, I can't, up here, right here, you can see that it is changing. Let me zoom in a little bit. If I go up here and drag around, it's changing those RGB values. If I go like this, it changes to a different hue. This is called a hue. And this is called the actual color, the tints and the shades and things like that. You'll hear more about that later. You can actually slide this thing down and make it partially transparent. Now we're getting way out in left field. But I wanted to show you there's a color picker inside of there. So I'm gonna go back to 77, or I'll just leave it 78, and that's fine. That's almost the same color. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. That's a very kind of dark gray. So again, RGB stands for red, green, and blue. And then 78, 78, 78 means if you have the same amount of red, green, and blue, it's a gray color. Let me show you two other ways to see color if you're not using VS Code, for example, or something else. So if I go into a browser and I just type color picker, it has to be Chrome actually. If I go into Chrome and I type, well, maybe Firefox doesn't, I'm not sure. But if you type in color picker into Chrome and maybe some other browsers, you will get a color picker. It's just built in, it's kind of crazy. So here you can slide, again, you can slide this slider, and that's how you can pick a hue. A hue is sort of the pure version of the color. And then you can click and drag over here to make tints and shades. That's adding black or white, make it lighter, darker, more saturated, less saturated. Again, this is all like color term stuff. And then if I look down here, I will see in this version 5 different sets of numbers to how to specify that color. So the first one is called, I know that's really small, it says hex. That's short for hexadecimal system. What the hexadecimal system is the old school way, and it's still used a lot, to specify a color. 91 is the red, 4E is the value for green, or G, and 4E again, wow, I got lucky on that, is the value for blue. Red, green, blue, RGB. So why is there 2 numbers here, and here there's, now I gotta zoom out, here there's 3? Because this system is so old that I didn't want to use 3. I think that's why they did it. The system is so old they didn't want to use 3 characters. Now we use 3 characters. So really, if you look at let me show you in Photoshop actually, because you can see it in Photoshop as well. I'm going to show you here in Photoshop. All right, so if I click on the foreground color picker in Photoshop, some of you know Photoshop, some don't, but there's a foreground color picker right there. If I click on that, I'll get a color picker there too. They're everywhere. And then if I go to, let's just type in 255. Yeah, just 255, that's fine. So I just did 255.00. That is pure red. That's the color right there. So there's 255 levels of red, green, and blue. If I put 255 for all three, what does that make? It makes white. All of the red, the green, and the blue that you could have makes white. That's how your screen colors work, by the way. That's different from this set of colors. You guys that are print designers or have done this before, this is a different color system. It's CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are ink colors. So why is it opposite? If you wanted something, and we're getting into the weeds a little bit on color, but you kind of do need to get this. If you wanted to print something on white paper, what color ink would you use? You wouldn't use any. Trick question, right? So I don't need any ink to make white, right? I just leave it white, assuming it's white paper. It might not be white. Then that would be a different situation. So CMYK is the opposite, right? I add ink to make a darker color. In RGB, I add light to make a lighter color, right? So it's kind of opposite. This is all the color, this is no color. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Also, you can see the hex colors down here. So if I put in 00FF00, that is no red, all the green, and none of the blue. That is this green. It looks kind of like lime green actually, but that is the same as 0, 255, and 0. So yeah, it's just two different ways to specify the same color. There's also other color systems. This is just hue, saturation, and brightness. This is lab color, which is kind of a nerdy internal Photoshop thing. And then CMYK we talked about, and that I think there's even more. But really what you probably got to know for this class is RGB and blue. So if I wanted to make purple, what would I make? You probably know this from like kindergarten. How do you make purple? Or let's do red and blue. Let's do FF00FF. Oh, look at that. Red and blue make violet. I guess you'd call it violet. So if I go 255, 0, 255, I get that color. The hex code for that, that's the short for hexadecimal, is FF00FF. Why? And again, this is two characters instead of 3 because they're using base 16. Yeah, what does that mean? Math majors will know what I'm talking about. We don't need to get into that. But anyway, no, it's tough to memorize this kind of stuff, right? Like what color is, like, could I really like figure out in my head, like what color that is? The code? Probably not. So just go ahead and use a color picker, and that's kind of the way to do it. So this color, this light green, or this kind of medium green, I guess, color is in RGB, it's 87, 140, and 59. In hex, it's 57, 8C3B. Sounds like a seats on a plane or something. But that's the same color, just specify two different ways. All right, I think that is enough on the color thing. That was a little bit of a side note there, but not really. It's super important, right? So I'm gonna get rid of this so it doesn't get in our way here. So there's lots of places to figure out what color you want to use. So yeah, we're going to use RGB 7. I'm going 78, 78, 78. You guys use the same thing. Also going to specify, actually that's all I need. I'm just going to leave that the way it is. I'm also going to go down and specify some styles for the headings too. And this is why one reason you might want to use these embedded or internal styles. So I'm going to put H1, comma, H2, and then those curly brace things next to your P. Then I'm going to do font family again, and I'm going to pick, on this one, let's pick, let's do the Franklin Gothic on this one. And then actually I'm going to go up here and change this. So I just select that and delete, and then if I put the colon, it'll give me the prompt again. And then I'm going to go with Verdana, which is a super straight ahead kind of font style. All right, so I changed this one to the Franklin. Now the headings are using this font and the body is using Verdana. And I wanted to show you Verdana because it is maybe the most, well, it used to be anyway. It's one of the most popular fonts on the web. It's built into every browser, or built into almost every computer because Microsoft invented it, so everybody has it. And it is a font that is made for easy readability on screen. So it's a good generic choice for a sans serif font. This is what it looks like. That's Verdana, right? This is now Franklin Gothic Medium or Arial Narrow or Arial. I can't really tell because it depends which one I have on this computer. So let's go back to this and talk about what I did here. So that says H1, comma H2, right? What does that mean? That means I want to apply the same styles to two different things. So if you want to apply the same styles to different things, you just put a comma between them. So instead of writing it twice, I could write it twice, but I'm lazy, right? You guys knew that. So make it easier on yourself. Do it once. Let's change the color of just the H1 and the H2. Let's go color. And this time we'll use hex. I'm going to do 526380. So that's the other system, right? So here we used RGB. Here we used hex, or hexadecimal system for short, hex for short, right? That is this color. So it's, now we have a slightly different color, kind of a bluish color for our headings, right? And then we've got a different color for our body copy. By the way, let's actually change the background color of our page too. Let's go up here to the body and say background-color. And we'll say, we'll do RGB again, and we'll do 239 and 240 and 233. See, now this is messing me up with this, trying to help me. You just want commas in there. I don't want the word blue. There we go. So I put in this RGB 239, comma 240. It doesn't matter. I don't think that there's a space in there. Comma 233, 239, 240, 233, right? And that gives us a slightly different kind of off-white thing. So I just wanted to show you how you can do that too as well, and use the background color. I think we've used that one before, but use that one again. Okay, I think that's good on that. We're gonna do one more style. Oh, I didn't point out the big advantage to using internal or embedded styles. Since I put this in the head in the style tag, remember this is called internal or embedded. Since I put it up here, this is gonna work on all the H2s on our page and all the H1s actually. So I don't have to go into each one of these and say style equals blah, blah, blah. So it goes throughout the whole page. So now you can see the benefit of doing it this way versus the way we've been doing a lot of these is just going into each individual one and adding that in. So yeah, that's the advantage. And that works the same way on an external style sheet as well. So let's go down one more, put in one more style here. We're gonna say UL, comma OL, which we haven't done yet, and DL, anything with an L in it. And then we're gonna say margin top. And I could have done this later, but let's just do it now. 0. And margin bottom, 0. And there's different ways to write this as well, but what we're basically saying is we want to get rid of the margin on top and the bottom of these types of lists. We just did the UL. But we haven't done an OL yet, which we're going to do in a second, and we haven't done the DL yet, the down low. So yeah, we'll turn that off later, and you can probably see what this is doing. But this is basically removing the margin. Remember, the margin is the space around something. I think you saw that in an earlier video, right? So it's removing the space, some of the space on top and bottom of these lists, just to get it to be a little tighter. Okay, so yeah, I think that is it. So let's go ahead and do our next list. I know we took a little while to do that kind of stuff. So the next one is going to be, let's put an H2 here first. H2, and this is an unordered or an ordered list of books. This is an ordered list of books. Okay, so this is going to be what our second list is about, and we'll get through these lists pretty quick, I think, now. So we're going to put OL, and then inside of the OL, it's the same tag for the OL or the ordered list as it is for a list item, but it will look a little bit different. So we're going to put LI, and actually, let's go back. Let's add our style in here before I forget. Let's say style equals, and I'm going to say list style type decimal. Okay, so you'll see what that does here in a second. Now we can do LI, and oh, we need to add one more thing, sorry. After that list style type decimal, let's add start 1, and then we'll change it. That's the default anyway, but we'll change it after in a second. You can see what that does. Okay, so, now in this first list item, I'm going to put Dune again, because it's a book and a movie. Multiple movies, but one book. Well, depends how you talk about it. And then we're going to say style equals list style type lower alpha. What does that mean? You'll see. Okay. And then we can put our cursor inside that list item and use our Shift Option or Shift Alt, and we'll just copy that line 3 times, I think. And then we'll make the second book Harry Potter, even though I know that's not the name of the book. Well, is it? No, it's Temple of Pots or something like that. I can't remember the names of these movies, but. So it's list style type, and this one we're going to put, instead of lower alpha, we're going to say lower Roman. Lower Roman. And you'll see what these do. I'll just put it in, and then we'll look at it. And this one will be Harry Potter. Should have copied this before. Save a little time here. We'll put Harry Potter 2. You guys can put any book you want. I'm going to give you that kind of freedom. So this one is going to be, that was lower Roman. The next one will be... actually, let's change this to list style position, because I wanted to show you that again. So I'm going to do list style position inside, and this one's list style position. Let's get rid of this. List style position outside. And I think that is what we wanted. Yeah. Okay, so we've got list style type decimal up here, which is the default, and that's just going to be just regular old numbers. You can see what's going on here, right? So it's numbering these things for me. This is 3 and that's a 4, right? I didn't put a 3 and a 4 in there. It's numbering for me. So that's what the OL does, is number things for you. So the decimal is the default. It would have been that way anyway. Then we said lower alpha. That gives me lower case. We said lower alpha. Oh yeah, alphanumeric. Sorry, that was on Dune, right? So lower alpha means lowercase letters, right? And then lower Roman, trying to zoom in to show you guys here, is lowercase Roman numerals. I could do upper 2. There, I just did upper Roman right there. And now it has an uppercase Roman numeral. And then these, I didn't say anything as far as the list style type, so it's just using decimal because it's inheriting that. But I went back to the inside outside thing so you guys would see that again. Yeah, so that is kind of what I wanted to show you on that one. The other thing I wanted to do is show you that you could change the starting number. So we put start equals 1 there. This is a HTML attribute. it's not a, this is like a style too, right? That's an attribute. This is an attribute. I'm going to put this as, it's not CSS, it's just part of the HTML is what I'm getting at. I'm going to put start to, and now instead of starting on A, it starts on B. Or you can do 3 and then be C, etc., right? So you can change the starting number on lists. That's the point. I'm going to put this back to 2. Yeah, so that's an attribute that tells, an attribute is like CSS a little bit. It's a property and then a value, but instead of the semicolon, it's got the equal sign in there, right? Okay, so you guys knew that already. All right, I think that's good on that list. We've got just a bit more here on one more type of list. So I'm going to go down to the next line or a couple lines down and do H2. And this one's going to be, this is a description list. There we go. Sorry about that. This is a description list, and then we're going to go below that. Let me scroll up a little bit. Actually, I'll keep it down so you guys can see up here if you need to. So then we're going to do a DL. That's the third type of list. So we have 3 types of lists. Inside of a DL, we're going to put a DT. And the first DT is going to, let's say, this is a term / name in a description list. So that is what the DT stands for. So DL stands for description list. DT is a term or a name in a description list. And then the third one, this one has 3 tags. You notice it's not using the list item tag, right? Is DD. So this is a description definition or value in a DL list. That is the DD tag. Let me make this a little bigger. It's wrapping weirdly for you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to copy these 2 lines a little bit, and I'm just in the old-fashioned copy paste here. Just we want 3 lines there. I wanted to show you what it looks like. All right, there we go. So that is a description list, and just like it sounds like it's sort of a list of descriptions, or you can also think of like a glossary, right? So if you're going to do a glossary on a web page or something like a glossary, like a bunch of terms or something, you would want to use maybe a description list for the tag. Remember, you want to use tags that are have semantic meaning, right? So you want to use the tag that makes sense. So you got DL as the definition or the description list, DT is the term, and then DD is the description or definition. This thing has kind of changed names a bunch of times. So it used to be called definition list, description lists, all kinds of things. So that's basically what it is, a list of terms and definitions. I think that's it on that one. I'm not going to even bother to put any styles on that one because we're running pretty long here. Okay, so let's do one more list. Just as a variation here, let's do H2. And what we're going to do is, sorry. I don't know what I was doing there. H2. And then this one's a nested list. So I'm just going to put nested. Oops, I hit the nested list. Okay, so we're doing a nested list. What is a nested list? It's a list within a list, wrapped within an enigma and a riddle. Okay, so then I'm going to put my UL. So I'm doing a UL. Right, and then I'm going to do a list item. So LI. And the first list item, we're just going to do coffee. We're just going to do drinks. Coffee. Now we're going to do another one. We're going to say li, and we're going to say t. But we're going to go down below that. So I just put T, and then the closing tag, this is the tricky part. The closing tag is still down here. Now we're going to add another list. What? That's crazy. UL, and inside of there, this is where the automatic indenting in VS Code is going to help you out a little bit. And then we're going to do list item. And let's do black T. I hate T, by the way. And let's just copy and paste. I know I could do the down arrow thing, but, and then I guess there's green tea, right? Tea is basically like dirty water to me, but I know some of you guys probably like it. And then that's it. So let me finish this and then we'll take a look at it. So I'm gonna go LI, and another drink would be milk. Okay, so that is it. I think that looks right. So this, like I said, this is helping you out a little bit. VS Code is helping you because I can see what is inside of what. So here's our first list item. Here's our second, but inside of our second list item is a whole another list, right? And then here's our third list item. If I look at that on the page, on the web page, you can see down here, here's our first list item, here's our second, there's the nested list. So this list is inside of this list item, and then here's the third list item. I think that is it on that. So that can get a little tricky, but that's how it works. The important thing to remember about lists is you have to have everything in a list inside of a list item. You can't put anything there, for example. That it's not legal, doesn't work. You can't put a break there. Can't put code between those. They have to be inside a list item. So anything you want to put inside of a list has to be inside of a list item somewhere. Like there, that kind of thing. So don't make that mistake because you'll get that error a lot. That one comes up a lot. Okay, so I think that is about it on that one. Let me go below. Now we're going to hit a couple of our last two topics here, our special characters, and we're going to do a link to finish up just for fun. All right, so let's go down here below that and put H2. And this is going to be HTML character entities. Sounds like ghosts and stuff, but it's not, as far as I know. So what are these things? These are ways to write special characters that you shouldn't really be just typing in because they could cause you issues. So one would be like a bracket, right? If I put a left angle bracket like that, the browser is going to think I'm doing a tag. But what if I don't want to put a tag? I want to put that actual character on screen. So then I use what's called a character entity, or sometimes called an escape code entity. They have all kinds of names. I'm going to call them special characters because I want to. So I'm going to do ampersand LT and then a semicolon. And what shows up? Look, check out down at the bottom of my, maybe I have to bring this up a little bit so you guys can see it. Down here it says a little left angle bracket. Look at that. Less than sign, right? So that's what it stands for. LT stands for less than. So you start these character entities with the ampersand, and then you have the code for the character, and then you have a semicolon. Notice there's no brackets on it. It's not a tag. It is a character, right? So it's how you type a character. Let's do a few more. Let's do ampersand GT. You probably figure out what that is. That is the greater than character. Let's do a copyright symbol, which I think we did already, but I'm going to do it again. I think we did that in the previous video. There's the copyright symbol. Let's do, what if we want to do an ampersand? You have to put ampersand, AMP, and then a semicolon. That gives you an ampersand. And then we're going to do registered trademark. So I'm going to do ampersand, REG, semicolon. There we go. So there's those characters down here at the bottom of the screen. There's another one too, which is one you probably know. It's called non-breaking space. And that is ampersand NBSP, semicolon. And then that puts a space between those. Now this is not really how you space things out, but I wanted to show you that character anyway. I'm gonna paste it a couple more times. 4 times, because that's my favorite number. So now you can see there's space between those characters. That's called a non-breaking space, NBSP. So there's a giant list of those. If I look up HTML special characters, they're calling them symbol entities, character entities. They seem to have all kinds of different names. So there are, I don't know, millions. There's about 3 million of them. There are different languages as well. Yeah, there's tons of them. So these are just a few common ones, but I wanted you to know those exist in case you need to do that. Put that on the page. All right, let's move on. Let's go down to, we're almost done. I know you're like, can we finish, please? Yes, we can finish. So I'm gonna put in a footer, and inside the footer, I'm gonna put a link, special treat. It's like dessert. So I'm gonna put footer and then a a space and then href equals, and then I'm gonna put https://www.w3.org. I know that's fun to type, huh? And I think that's it. And then close that bracket. And then inside that tag, I'm gonna say go to the W3C. Remember the W3C is the World Wide Web Consortium. Look at that. What is that? That's a link. You guys did a link already. So let me just click on it, make sure it works. I think it works. Yeah, there we go. I went to the W3C. There you go. All right. So what's going on here? So let me zoom in here a little so you can see a little better. So the link is actually, the tag for the link is called it's the anchor tag. It's A. That's the link. The second part, the href, stands for hypertext reference. Hypertext reference. That is where you want the link to go. This is what made the web, a big deal, right? You can link stuff together. So A is anchor, that's the link tag. Href is the attribute that tells where you want it to go. Without the href, it really doesn't do anything. So you always have to have the href. Inside the quotes, that's where you put where you want that link to go. I put the w3.org website, which is the World Wide Web Consortium. Here's the end, zoom in again. Here's the end of the link, the closing link tag. By the way, you guys knew this, I think already, hopefully, but the attribute like href goes in the opening part of the tag. It does not go in the closing part. And you can't have an attribute like href. You can't have href without the anchor. So anyway, so you got the closing tag here, and then whatever's in between there becomes the link. So the words go to the W3C become the link. If I click on that, it goes to the website that you put in, and this doesn't have to be an external website. This can be in your own site. There's a whole different exercise for that because that's a bigger deal, or complicated, a little more complicated. But this is if you want to link to an external website, you just put href equals the name of the site. Doesn't have to be underlined. VS Code's doing that. And then whatever you want the text to say in the link. One thing to notice is if I put go to the moon here, it says go to the moon, but obviously I can't click on that and go to the moon. That would be awesome, but it doesn't work. It doesn't care what it says in here. It only cares about what is in the href tag or attribute. It's an attribute, right? So yeah, that is a little bonus, little extra. That's how you can link to something. Let's say I wanted to move something over, and we'll do this as the last thing here. I'm gonna put in a local style here. I'm gonna say style equals, and then I'm gonna say margin left. Let's do 20 pixels. PX is pixels. There we go. Oh, I lost my href. How did that happen? I messed it all up. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah. So actually, let's put 40 pixels because I want you to really see it. So now I have a style equals margin left 40 pixels. This is CSS, right? And then this is the href. This could be in any order too, by the way. Probably you'd have it. Well, you'd probably do this as an internal style. But anyway, so we've got style equals margin left 40 pixels, and then we've got href. That's where the link is going to. What I really want to show you is the space now. I put a margin on the left of 40 pixels. Why did I do that? I wanted to show you that you do not want to use two things. You do not want to use non-breaking spaces to put space around things. I could have put a bunch of non-breaking spaces before that and it would have moved over, but that's not really what it's for. It's for actually for a character. So if you want to make space to the left of something or right of something, that kind of thing, use a margin, right? You also don't want to misuse tags. Remember we talked about semantic markup? I wouldn't want to use, and this is actually, people used to do this. You remember this DD tag from about 45 minutes ago? This has a little indent on it, right? It has some margin on it. That's built into the styles for the tag. I wouldn't want to go like, oh, you know what? I want a little bit of space on the left of this link. I'll just put a DD tag on it. No, that's not what it's for, right? It doesn't describe it. You want to use the tag that makes sense. So back in the day, like if you had tabs on a page in Word and you wanted to save it as an HTML tag, it would throw in all these DD tags, which is not what they're for. It's just like a hack. So don't do that. Don't use a tag because of the way it looks. Use CSS to make it look like you want. Oh man, that sounded wise, like Yoda or something. Okay, so I think that is it. I know that was kind of a long one. Sorry about that. Hopefully you took a break in there and had some coffee or something, but I think we are good with this one, and I will talk to you again later.